Welcome to the Bruins Benders Podcast. It's Season 4, Episode 3, 66 Million Reasons to Play Hockey. And it's with Maddie and Smitty, brought to you on the Inside the Rink Podcast Network, live on YouTube. InsideTheRink.com is your one-stop shop for all your NHL, AHL, ECHL, and PWHL news, insight, and analysis. In this episode, we're going to discuss the signing of Jeremy Swayman finally, and also some roster cuts today by the Bruins, and the Bruins will open up on Tuesday night in Florida, weather permitting, down there. Hit the subscribe button on Inside the Rink's YouTube channel. All subscribers are eligible for the NHL jersey giveaway, jersey of your choice from Fanatics. Another winner will be selected in late October. Follow this QR code as well on your screen to purchase event tickets through Ticketmaster. You can get tickets to any of the Bruins games right there on Ticketmaster with that code. Help out the program. Follow each of us as well on X. We're at Bruins Benders. Smitty is at Benders Smitty, and I am at Mr. Matty Barry. And Smitty, what a day in Bruins lore as Jeremy Swayman finally gives in and puts all of his agendas away and graces us with his presence.
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah. Nice little coming home present for me. Just got back from Aruba.
Yeah.
And then Swayman signs up and before the season starts, so that's good. And he'll be ready to go, slightly under the 8.5 I said from the beginning, at 8.25 per year. So, I guess good for the Bruins and good for Swayman, but, still a little bit of conditioning and getting up to speed for him. So we'll see actually when he ends up playing his first game.
We will see when that will be. I would predict the home opener, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's probably.
Because he has taken the flight to Florida, so he's headed to Florida with the gang. So. Yeah. We'll see what happens there. And a little bit later, we're going to have Kristie Delisi. She's a writer for InsideTheRink.com, and she covers Florida Panthers. We'll talk some Panthers as we reignite our hatred for the folks from Sunrise, Florida. All right, rapid review, and we'll talk about the last preseason game. The Bruins finished the preseason 2-4-1. They lose 2-0 to Washington in their last game of the preseason. For the last couple of games, it just seemed like, and Jim Montgomery even talked about, the team was just ready for the season to start. Just, lineups have been sort of, kind of thrown together, and sometimes you have some veterans, sometimes you don't, and guys playing with different guys, and it was just time for the preseason to end. 7's probably a game or two too long.
Yeah, I think they they have too many games in the preseason, and I think they're talking about the NHL and the NHLPA are talking about possibly reducing the length of the preseason a little bit and maybe adding a couple more regular season games. So that could be on the horizon. I'm not really sure I'm a huge fan of that. I think they should probably keep the number of games where it is and still cut the preseason down a little bit. I think the Bruins maybe fielded a full lineup in one or two of those games. That was about it. And even then, it wasn't, because of injury or illness or whatever, it wasn't a true representation of what you'll see on opening night, I don't think. So, they never really got to gel and come together, which, I don't know. Is that a coaching thing? Is that, let's give all the young guys a chance? Is it, trying to save some of the veterans, some of the older guys from a little wear and tear early in the season? I'm not sure what the answer is as far as all that goes, but you didn't see a lot of regulars in the preseason for the Bruins, at least during the games.
No, you have some veterans on the team, been here quite a while, and Brad Marchand has been dealing with an illness. He's coming back from 3 surgeries. Matt Poitras's been been out of the lineup with a day-to-day injury. Elias Lindholm had a nagging injury that he finally was able to play, but he was out in the beginning, so it was kind of uneven. Yeah. So Max Jones, hasn't played for a while. It was hard to tell, what he was going to bring to the table. And they had some spots that were open. Second line right wing. They tried to give Fabian Lysell some play. They tried to give Georgii Merkulov some play to try to see if they could make the team. They both been sent down. So, it's just I guess one of those things where then the defense is pretty much set.
Yeah.
So they threw some young guys in there. I think they tried to, like you said, try to take away some of the wear and tear from the defensemen, try to keep, get them in and out of the lineup and try to stay relatively healthy, which I think they are to a point. We'll see what happens with Patra. And then, of course, Swayman. It will take a little bit of time, too. And we'll see if the Swayman situation and not having him at the very beginning, if that ruins any type of rhythm that the team has or gets them off to the slow start or if they have any type of hangover from that. But, it just wasn't a great it wasn't a great preseason, all around. I just there were parts of the game. Some of the issues I see offensively with the team, I didn't feel any better about. So that was something we'll talk about a little bit later on. But I just don't feel great about the overall offensive balance to start. So I'm hoping that I'm wrong, but I think that could be the one area of improvement that they need to work on. All right, so we'll bring on Kristie Delisi. Kristi is from InsideTheRink.com. She covers the Florida Panthers. Kristi, thanks for joining us on the program.
Oh, I think you muted.
There you are. Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
We're just testing you. Hey, anytime. We're glad to have you, and we're going to talk some Panthers. And I was actually asked about this on a Panthers podcast last week. I was on whether or not the Bruins and the considered the Panthers their rival now, and I had to think about it for a second. But I think I do consider them one, just because the Panthers have had the Bruins numbers. Do you think Panthers fans consider the Bruins a rival?
Yeah, based on what I've seen, like social media wise, Florida fans are not really high on Boston at all. Certainly playoffs wise, definitely not fans of each other.
Yeah, and I think the playoffs are what really sparks a rivalry. That's why the Bruins and Canadiens rivalry has not really been able to maintain the last 10 years, because they haven't met each other in the playoffs since 2014. So whenever you don't have playoff rivalry, then you don't have an overall rivalry, in my opinion. So right now, Bruins Panthers have had 2 straight seasons of really physical, nasty kind of series, and that's what does it.
Even their regular season games are like that too. They're really mean. They're really hard to play for both teams. Like lots of penalty minutes depending on the night.
Sure. All right. So the Panthers lose a few players from last year's team. Brandon Montour, we talked about it before we came on, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Ryan Lomberg. And you mentioned Kevin Stenlund was a big loss, and of course Vladimir Tarasenko. Who steps up as far as replacements? And I see some former Bruins on there.
A big one that fans should expect to see, and I actually talked about this while I was covering the playoffs, that someone fans should keep an eye on is Anton Lundell. He's currently their third line center, but he had a really good playoffs. He had 17 points in the 24 games that he played. When Sam Bennett went out with injury during the first round, Lundell played up with Tkachuk and Verhaeghe, sometimes Rodriguez, depending on the night, because Paul Maurice likes to swap his lines or his players some nights and just move them around. So I would not be surprised to see him have a really big year this year. Coaching staff is also expecting him to take a bigger role on with the team as well. They're hoping to get him on the penalty kill with his line mate, Lysell. And he's really good in the faceoff dot as well, which is sometimes a really underrated part of Florida's game.
So as a Bruins fan, it didn't seem like Florida had many weaknesses last year. They were pretty complete from front to end, front to back, winning the whole thing. But what are some of the biggest question marks for Florida this coming season, do you think?
I would say the defense is a little bit of a question mark for me, because they did lose Montour, they did lose OEL, but I think who they brought in are really good fits based on what I've seen. Unfortunately, I don't live in market for Florida, so I can't actually watch their preseason games. But based on what I've seen going around, Adam Boquist has filled in really nicely. He's running on the top power play unit right now for Florida, so he's up with the big names. And then Nate Schmidt has played pretty well as well. And then they have one of their prospects, Uvis Balinskis, who played a little bit last year, but he was mostly with Charlotte. So it's looking like he will also be on the main team. So we'll see how all of them kind of fit together as a unit, who plays with who, the new pairings. So that's the biggest question mark, but their top pairing still together in Gustav Forsling and Aaron Ekblad. So that's always going to be a monster pair on defense for them. And also just how the team can stay healthy. They've had 2 really long playoff runs, short summers. How well can the team stay healthy? Paul Maurice said that the guys came in healthier and stronger than they've been last year, so that's a good sign. But we'll see if they can stay that way for another long season, hopefully.
Yeah, that's the one thing about winning the cup is they have a really short off season, and they went deep a couple years in a row. And you're right, and that happened with the Bruins when they went deep. They went 13 and 19, and so it does wear on you after a while. You play a lot of hockey. So what do you think? And we've seen as Bruins fans that the strength of that team obviously is their size and kind of heaviness and their willingness to be kind of a little bit nasty, hard to play against, and those types of things. Is that still the major strength and function of the team?
They are a defensive team first and foremost. That's what Paul Maurice likes to run with them. They play, like you said, hard, physical hockey, and they wear teams down. They were the best third period team in the NHL last year for that reason. They were the best forechecking team last year for the same reason. So they're really, really hard to play against because of the style that they play, and it's so hard. And it's almost like they're playing almost a playoff style for an entire regular season before even getting to the playoffs.
So you mentioned Maurice was expecting Lundell to have kind of a breakout season. Are there any other candidates that you expect or the coaching staff expects to have a breakout season?
I think the Boquist brothers, Adam and Jesper, could both have really good seasons with them. I mentioned before we got live that both of them have scored at least 1 goal in almost every preseason game that they played together or for Florida. So that's a really promising thing to see out of those guys. And right now, with Thomas Nosek being out injured and he's week to week, one of their prospects, Patrick Giles, has had a really good training camp and preseason, and he can fill in for 4th line center until Nosek is healthy.
Okay, so Nosek we know of. He's a defensive-minded center, and plays a good role. And on that team, honestly, he'd probably be a really good fit when he's healthy.
Likely, I'd expect him to have kind of a similar role that Kevin Stenlund did, being 4th line center and possibly penalty killing, but we'll see if that goes more towards Lundell Luisterainen. Maurice said that he's wanting to possibly play fewer minutes for like Barkov and Reinhart and some of their top guys just to even it out a bit.
All right. Now, odds makers are saying that this could be a Stanley Cup rematch coming up this year. How likely do you think that is?
I think it's pretty likely. Y'all are talking about who they lost, but out of Florida's top 9 forwards, they only lost 1 guy, which is someone that they acquired at the trade deadline. So they could potentially fill that with someone else at the trade deadline again this year, or have someone who's already within the team who can step into that role. The defense is still going to be, the biggest question mark, but from what I've seen, I trust Bill Zito and who he brings in to fill the gaps in the roster for sure. And the other thing I thought was really interesting is when Maurice was doing media for training camp, him and players from the team said that they don't believe in cup hangover. So they're just ready to go again. And I don't think there's going to be a ton of drop off.
Sure.
That's interesting. Because a lot of times it's not really up to you because, you've played 2 long seasons. And that just kind of adds up as you get longer into this current season. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But you watched the Face Off on Amazon Prime, the Inside the NHL documentary. What were your thoughts about that? I caught the first episode when I came home. and I really enjoyed it. But what were your thoughts overall on the show?
As someone who enjoys hockey, I really, really liked it. As far as other things, I think it makes hockey more accessible for people who don't watch hockey, just because it gives them, players or teams or situations that they can get attached to on an emotional level before trying to like watch a game and just figure it on the fly. So there was a lot of really compelling like storylines that they went through and like episode to episode. The one thing, at least for me, it skewed really heavily Western Conference and who got covered. And I don't know if that was Amazon's choice or just who volunteered to be on the show, but you really only got Florida and Boston out of the East and like a little bit of the Rangers. So that's like my one complaint.
Right. I mean, we've seen over the years, and Smitty and I have been saying this forever. They need to market their players, their good personalities.
Yeah.
And I was watching some of the Swayman Tkachuk one, just for the purposes of the show, and that's the only one I've seen so far. And I mean, it's excellent. I mean, it's just really good. It's something that's long overdue. And they had all sorts of different types of person. They're showing Matt Tkachuk, and they're billing him as a superstar, which he is in the grand scheme of things. But it's nice to be able to get him out nationally and internationally to see this guy, just not just playing hockey, but his personality and what makes him who he is. And I think that's what the league needs to do.
I think one of the best things got said in the last episode, and I don't remember who said it, but one of the people getting interviewed said that Matthew Tkachuk has never seen a camera he doesn't like.
Oh, that's true.
And I feel like that's very true. But I also, overall, I think it does a really good job of recapping how the playoffs went for the teams that it does follow. So especially when you get into the last two episodes, it does a really nice job of covering the finals and how the finals went and how crazy that was.
Right. Now, Kristi, we look forward to the game on Tuesday, but there is some weather coming in, another hurricane. The Lightning have already canceled their game, so we're hoping that the Panthers and Bruins can get it going Tuesday night. Should be a good one. And I heard that the banner raising is not till home game 4 or 5 or
no. It's supposed to be Tuesday.
Oh, is it Tuesday?
They're supposed to be doing it for the home opener. I'm sure that'll maybe sting a little bit.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, that's the second time I think Washington had theirs with the Bruins playing a few years ago when they won. It's one of those, motivational tactics.
Yeah, it's a little rivalry thing. It's nice.
Yeah, sure.
It adds to the whole rivalry of the whole thing. And then the Bruins and Panthers meet again, like a week later.
They do.
It should be a nice kind of way to get into the season at the beginning with both teams kind of getting after it early.
Yeah. Now, Kristi, what's your prediction on who wins the division this year?
Not just because I'm a Florida fan, but I do think Florida will probably take it again, just because in terms of important pieces to their team, they still have the majority even after winning the cup. A lot of them are signed long term as well, so most of those guys aren't leaving anytime soon. So they're going to be pretty tough to beat.
I see. Okay, because they didn't win the division by a long shot 2 years ago. And last year snuck in at the very end to win by a point. So
or did Boston lose it?
Well, that could be true too. That could be true.
Either or.
But the Panthers aren't necessarily the greatest regular season team, but certainly built for the playoffs, I guess is my point.
They're very penalty prone during the regular season. I think that's why their PK
and rightfully
was so
so.
Yeah. I think I can count on like two hands how many games I watched where they didn't get into a fight with somebody.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
They're playing Ottawa their second game, so if you watched them last year, that was the game where everybody on the ice got a 10-minute misconduct, and they all got thrown out.
So a Tkachuk family reunion. Nice.
Yeah, the Tkachuk Bowl. We'll see how that goes.
Nice. Well, Kristi, we appreciate it. Great stuff, and go Bruins.
I root for the Bruins when Florida's not playing.
Yeah, we appreciate having you on. We'll certainly have you on again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
You got it.
Thanks
all right, it's time for 7 chirps. Seven Chirps is sponsored by Lops Brewing, Lobster Brewery and Tasting Room in downtown Woonsocket, Rhode Island, specializing in small batch ales and lagers, open 7 days a week. Use the coupon code SPORTS to get 10% off your online order. Go to lopsbrewing.com or actually go on the social media at Lops Brewing and follow them for new beers and events. And one of the events is a watch party, Halloween party podcast live with your friends from Bruins Benders Podcast. Coming up on October the 26th.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. October 26th.
5 p.m. podcast down at Lops. And then Bruins Leafs watch party starting at 7. And the Halloween party will be going all night long there from open to close. So come on down there, check out the podcast, watch the little Bruins Leafs action and enjoy the Halloween festivities.
Yeah. We'll have our Dumb and Dumber leisure suits on and we'll be ready to get after it. Bruins Leafs reuniting on October the 26th in Woonsocket at Lops Brewing. All right, chirp number 1. Jeremy Swayman signs today on Sunday, 8 years, $8.25 million per year, $23 million in signing bonuses. We'll talk about that structure in a second. But overall, Smitty, it's kind of what we thought. And actually, the last episode, what we actually said might get it done was 8.25. I think it's a little, in the grand scheme of things right now, it's probably a little bit of an overpay by like $500,000 a year, but it's right in the ballpark and I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's probably where they should be. I saw earlier on Twitter today that when Tuukka Rask signed his big deal at age 26, he took up just over 10.5% of the cap. And this Swayman deal is 9 and change of the cap. So actually a little better deal overall, if you want to say that. Tuukka probably at the time was a little bit more proven than Swayman is now.
Sure.
I think in the grand scheme of things, you're probably happy where things are here, and the cap's going to go up. So this deal, in a few years, as long as Swayman continues, the trajectory is on as far as his career goes, you're looking at a really good deal for the Bruins, down the line.
Yeah, I look, the whole thing was sort of annoying. And Jeremy Swayman was playing, the hardball thing. He has the agent who will do it. And he came across, it was getting to a point where he's coming across, a little bit whiny, a little bit over the top, a little bit over dramatic, and then overvaluing himself. And the fans were getting a little frustrated with it as well. And then Neely says what he says about the 64 million reasons to play. And then it was really the determining factor, I thought, where he kind of tells everybody, this is what we're kind of offering. And then Swayman's camp is like, okay, well, we have this, we kind of have to do something now because they've kind of played their hand and we've played our hand and we have to get a deal done. And the other thing was that Monday begins a clock that every single day it's a different cap hit and a higher cap hit for the Bruins. So they wanted to get this thing done by Monday for sure. So that was another big factor in it for this year.
Yeah, and I'm glad they got it done before the season started. I think obviously they're going to stick with Korpisalo for the opener, and then hopefully Swayman will be ready in the near future. They haven't named a starter for the home opener, but I think we both assume it will probably be Swayman, but it may depend on how he practices and how things go in the first couple of sessions he's had here with the team, and it may take him a little time to get up to speed. And this was one of the things we worried about as they went into this lockout. How is he going to be conditioning wise? Is he going to be ready to play a full 60? Is he going to be mentally as sharp as he should be? He hasn't really seen game speed. Has he been taking care of his body well enough? Are there going to be any kind of little nagging injuries? So these are all things that could come up here in the first, 3-4 weeks to, a couple months of the season while he kind of works his way back into shape, because he's been a little late here to the table.
Now, year 3 to 6 are no movement clauses in the contract. Year 7 is a 10 approved team trade list. So he will approve 10 teams in year 7. And then in year 8, it's a 10 team no trade list. So 10 that they cannot. So that'll flip. So, a no movement clause for quite a bit of time. They're not going to move him for the first 6 years anyway. And by then, it's a pretty, if he's who he say he is, then, it's a really good deal by then, by year 4, 5, 6, when the cap going up and up and up, it's a really good deal then. So overall, it gets done. It gets done right before the season starts. He probably only misses a game or 2 or whatever. He's ready to go the first, 3 games of the season. Like you said, hopefully he doesn't have a nagging injury, or hopefully he's sharp. And now the pressure is on him somewhat now to play and play well from the get-go. The only thing I see going wrong here is if he just gets off to a really rough start. And if he does, that might open a little bit of a can of worms.
Yeah, there's a possibility of that for sure. Because that could snowball on him a little bit. If he gets off to a rough start, and fans and media start getting on him or questioning, whether he was prepared, or the contract was a distraction, or the negotiations were a distraction, or whatever the case may be. That could snowball on him a little bit. But the mentality he has, and goalies, we've said all along, are a little bit different. And I think it was portrayed that Sway was kind of a normal guy. But I think you can tell from this negotiation that he's a goalie.
He's aloof. Yeah,
he does things his own way. He's a little different. Mm-hmm. Thinks about things a little differently. Sure. So I feel like, he's got some things now to prove, maybe, going forward, and hopefully he can do that.
And hopefully he can. And, one of the things I like about him is that he showed a little bit of some cachet. He showed a little bit of, willingness to kind of, he was a little Tim Thomas-like in the playoffs, where he was sort of standing up to guys and smirking at guys and sort of giving it back a little bit, which I don't think the Bruins have done enough. And in 2011, obviously, Thomas did that against Vancouver, and it really turned the momentum, and it gave him a little bit of, just gave him a little bit of a boost, a little juice. And I think that Swayman gives him a little bit of juice in the back end. And I think that's the difference between him and Ullmark, who Ullmark is a little more, kind of laissez-faire kind of personality and doesn't do that kind of thing. But Swayman has shown that he's going to talk a little trash back and have a little bit of an ego, and have a little bit of, be a little bit of a dink to the other team. And I think that's a good thing for the team, for the overall sort of makeup and culture of the team, which has to change a little bit when it comes to that.
Yeah, they call him Bulldog for a reason. I mean, his nickname is Bulldog. They call him Bulldog for a reason. It's because he'll get in there and he'll fight you, and he'll scrap and claw and do whatever he can to keep the puck out, which is exactly what you want in a goalie. Mm-hmm. And I think that mentality, when he's in net, does tend to kind of permeate the rest of the team, and does give them maybe a little bit more of an edge than when Ullmark was in there. Although Ullmark certainly had a fantastic year a couple of years ago, so you can't really take anything away from him there. But I think Swayman's mentality, especially as he kind of ascends into the number one role here, it will help the team overall in their kind of mentality during the season.
How many games does he play?
55 to 60.
Yeah, that's what the number I thought was 55, 27, or something like that. 58, 25, 59, 25, whatever it is. Yeah, right around there. Yeah. All right. Trip 2. Overall grade on how the Bruins handled this.
I think both of them get an F. Both of them get an F. Because we said all along 8.5. So if we said that all along and they came in at 8.25, could they not have got this fucking done? Sorry, John. Like 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Could they not have got it done 2 months ago? They're both to fucking blame. Sorry, John. Both to blame. They both screwed it up. Both sides screwed it up. So the Bruins, should have probably tried to get it done before they moved Allmark. Then they didn't. Then Swayman thought he had the leverage. His agent was being kind of a dink. The Bruins maybe lowballed him originally. There's blame to go around for everyone. I think everyone deserves blame. It never should have gotten this far. But, happy it's done. Happy it's long term. I think he's a good player, obviously. Everybody wanted him here. So it all works out in the end, we think, as long as he performs up to the level that we think he can and should perform up to. But way too long. It took way too long. It took way too long.
Yeah, and for the number that they fell on, like you said, which is right around where a lot of people thought it would be, like between 8 and 8.5, like 8 years, where it just seems like we went around in circles and almost created a divorce over. It's like, it's like being in a marriage and you create a divorce because you didn't communicate properly, and then at the long run you both agreed, but you just didn't communicate, so you had no idea what either side thought. It just didn't seem necessary, like you said. And do you think that the low ball offer, the reported 4 years, 625, caused Swayman to be like, you know what, give me McAvoy money? Do you think that started it off on a bad note because of the arbitration thing, and now the low ball offer? Do you think that Swayman's agent said, they don't respect you, let's go McAvoy money?
I mean, I don't know. It would be interesting to hear the timeline on all that. Right. We never will hear it, but it'd be interesting to know, like, it's a chicken and the egg situation. Like, did the Bruins lowball, or did Swayman say, I want McAvoy money? And then the Bruins said, you're getting 6 points.
Here's lowball. Right.
Yeah. So, it could work both ways. So that's what I'm saying. I think both sides are to blame. I don't think anybody, if the Bruins had come out and said, we'll give you 7, and then they said, we want 9, like 8.5, 8.25. Sure. Yeah. Boom. Done. Like before training camp starts, it would have been done.
Right.
Would have been done. And so both sides messed this up, and both sides deserve to be, and I think both sides were at certain points in time during this whole thing dragged through the mud a little bit. People were blaming Sweeney and the Bruins for, some stuff during this. And then people were blaming Swayman for, wanting too much and holding out. And so I think both sides got what they deserved, with a little criticism in the media and from people like us. And then I think both sides got what they ultimately deserved when the contract was done, which was something probably pretty fair for both Swayman and the team.
Now, do you think Swayman should have taken or should have tried to demand a shorter term deal and bet on himself and gone for a bigger contract in 3 or 4 years?
The only thing I'll say about that is that, if you go short term and then you get an injury,
right.
I feel like players, especially, like the security of having a longer term deal. I was watching the documentary, the Face-Off documentary, and I watched the Nylander-Pasternak episode. And Nylander was talking about how his dad was on 7 or 8 different teams when he was a kid, and they moved all over. And he said Toronto, where he's signed now, has been the place that he stayed the longest.
Right.
As he was growing up. So I think the security is important to these guys. And so I think when a longer term deal makes itself available and both sides can agree on something that they see, can be mutually beneficial for both sides, I think, players in general would rather have that, so they're not moving their families around, so they can kind of have a home base where they know they're going to be for a certain amount of time. And I think it just gives them peace of mind to be able to, play, hopefully up to their potential.
Yeah, for sure. Dan checks in. He's from Australia, and he says he woke up this morning to the news, and it's the best news to wake up to. And it was. I was driving along on the road and saw, checked my phone, which I shouldn't. Don't call the police. And then saw on X that the deal was just about to get done. I pulled into a Panera, wrote an article for InsideTheRink.com, and then continued on my way because it kind of came out of the blue on a Sunday morning. But I will say this, I kind of had a feeling it would be done this weekend. John Butchercross said it'd probably be done this weekend. I saw on X as well. So, I thought that was the feeling going into the weekend because of the ramifications salary cap wise too, is that the Bruins probably had some urgency to get it done. So it gets done. Swayman remains a Bruin for the next 8 years. Chirp 3. Swayman flies with the team today to Florida, so he is with the team. Looks like he will not need a full conditioning stint. Bruins have 4 goalies on the roster. They sent 2 through waivers, Bussy and newly acquired Jiri Patera. All the goalies that they have need to clear waivers. Do they lose Bussy potentially?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a possibility that somebody claims him. I mean, he had a pretty good year last year. He's certainly had his moments in the last couple of years. 2 years ago with Providence, he was really good. So and he's still, relatively young. So I think someone, that doesn't have maybe the goalie depth that Boston has will certainly take a shot at him. So I could see somebody claiming him, definitely.
So now there are reports that Patera will go back to the Canucks. It looks like Monday. It's possible, even probable.
So they'll reclaim him.
They'll reclaim Patera and take him back. They're the only team who can reclaim him and send him down without sending him through waivers. So they can take him back and just send him right down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Bussy, wouldn't you take Bussy instead? And they also talked about, the people out there who thought that maybe that the Vancouver Canucks have sort of a revenge claim on Bussy. So either one of those goalies, I believe, is going to be with Vancouver on Monday, and that leaves, the Bruins a little bit short again on goaltender, and maybe potentially the following year when Bussy and DiPietro are up, the following year they may lose those 2 guys, and now your goaltending depth takes a real hit. But you can make the argument that you have a guy for 8 years and another guy for 4 years in Korpisalo.
3 years.
3 years in Korpisalo. Do you really need goaltending depth?
No, I mean, you could probably get by with, if you re-sign DiPietro to a 2-way deal to stick around. And, if one of those guys gets hurt, you have him to fill in and he'll be the starter in Providence. And then you can either sign, a veteran backup, or you have a guy like Philip Swedback in the Providence College that you could potentially sign into your organization. I believe, right?
So, right. You could sign him at the end of the year.
Yeah. So, they have some options. Will it be as good looking a goalie prospect pool as it is right now? No. Right. But, with a 25-year-old number 1 goalie, you don't need really a bunch of depth behind him as long as he's healthy.
Sure. And then the other question is, do you consider waiving Korpisalo and taking the 1.25 and cleared cap space it would give you?
I didn't see enough. As much as I like Bussy as a prospect, right. I didn't see enough from him during the preseason that made me say, let's get rid of Korpisalo.
Right.
I didn't think Korpisalo was anything to write home about coming into this season, coming into the preseason. I had pretty low expectations of him. But he's been better than I thought he would be. And maybe that's getting into the Bruins system. Maybe it's a change of scenery. Who knows what it is? Right. Maybe it's goalie Bob is a miracle worker. Maybe it's all of the above. I'm not sure. But I like the idea of having a guy who has NHL games under his belt and has been pretty good in this league at one point in time to be your backup. So I would rather have him at the NHL level, in case something, catastrophic happens with Swayman.
Now, when you have the 2 goalies actually get sent down or claimed, you'll have about 2 million, 1.9, I think, in cap space. So chirp number 4, is Tyler Johnson the next to sign?
I think he probably will be. I think he'll probably it'll be a Dan Heinen thing. Well, he kind of hangs around here a little bit, and if a guy gets banged up here or there, they sign him. Maybe they sign him and he starts the season. I don't know. But he certainly has shown the ability to score in this league. And, we'll talk about it a little bit. The Bruins have some challenges in that department as far as I, can tell. And I think, having a guy with his kind of experience and pedigree and just hockey IQ, he just seems to be in the right place a lot of times. Moves pretty well without the puck, which is probably one of the things that kept Lysell and Merkulov from being Bruins.
Mm-hmm.
Their play away from the puck, and I think Johnson's much better at that than those guys are. And so I could see him, finding his way onto the roster at some point for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he'll hang around. I think it could be a Heinen situation where they give Georgii a chance at second line wing, and they go with a group that's already signed, and they see how it shakes out. And if it fails, and if they aren't scoring goals, and they need someone like Tyler Johnson, then they sign him like they did Heinen after a little bit. So we'll see if Johnson doesn't have another offer, doesn't have another chance to go somewhere else too. So, good veteran guy to have though for sure. Chirp 5. Okay, your lineup predictions.
All right, lineup predictions.
Yeah.
So we're going Zacha, Lindholm, Pasternak, Marchand, Coyle. I really don't want it to be geeky, but it's going to be. So that's what I think it will be there. Then I'm going to go with who is that? Jones, Freddie,
Brezzo. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know.
And then Beecher, Kastelik, and drawing a blank.
Beecher, Kastelik, and no, not Max Jones. Beecher, Kastelik, and who else would it be? Patra is not in there. So if Patra's in there,
if Patra was in there, it would be someone else. But geez, wow,
I don't know. It would have to be somebody else. Yeah, I don't know. I know some other fourth liner. Oh, you know who it could be? It could be Cole Koepke, because they're talking about having Koepke because he's had a pretty good preseason.
Yeah,
and he's kind of still hanging on there. He's still on the roster, and it could be Koepke to start. So he'd be the fourth liner with and Kastelik.
Yes.
So and you'd have Brezzo at third line, and I'm not a huge fan of that.
Tell you what, I hate that third line. Hate it.
Yeah, I hate it with a passion. And I don't love the second line.
Jones, Frederick, Brezzo is no.
I'd be much happier with Marchand, Coyle, Patra when he's healthy. And then you put down Freddie, Geeky, and Jones or whatever.
Yes.
Fine.
Correct.
And then the fourth line can be Kastelik, Beecher, Brezzo.
Or Koepke.
Or Koepke. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's what I want. I want Patra on a top 6.
Yes.
Put him with Marchand and Coyle. I think that has the potential to be a pretty good line.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Because that'll give another playmaker with those guys. Yeah. I like that a lot. And that's probably what I would go with. But Geeky being there, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's going to have to prove it to me. He hasn't really proven it to me yet. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, their top 6 doesn't. Their top 6, their top 9 doesn't really match up well with any of the top teams in the division.
Yeah, I think sometimes you just gotta, like you say to your 7th grade crush, you just gotta give it a chance.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You just gotta give Patra a chance on there and give him 10 games. Give it 10 games. Don't give it 10 shifts. You know what I mean? Give it 10 games. Don't be cool. Don't be shooting from the hip, Jesse James, Jim Montgomery, just sending people everywhere and firing into the sun. Like, just give it a chance for a few games. Let guys build some chemistry.
Yeah. And then on the back end, I'm going Lindholm, McAvoy, Lowry, Carlo, Zadorov, Peak. I don't want Zadorov to have to come in as a free agent with big expectations. Having to try to like live up to the contract, like just come in, get used to it, get used to the system. Maybe you start off playing 15 minutes a night and you work your way up. And then, maybe, 20, 25 games in, you're playing with McAvoy or whatever. But right now, ease them in, give them a chance to get used to it all, crush people on the third pair. Bring a little offense there, bring a little nastiness with Peak, and just kind of solidify that. And then, as the season rolls on, maybe you move up. He can move up and down the pairings. I mean, he certainly has the ability. All of those guys can play big minutes. I mean, Lowry played close to 30 minutes a night in college. Lindholm's played, big minutes here and in Anaheim. So you have a bunch of guys who can play big minutes. McAvoy obviously plays big minutes. Carlo can play big minutes. So you have a bunch of guys there, I think, that are pretty versatile and can mix and match and play up and down the lineup. It's just finding, who plays best with who. And I think that's going to take a little time.
Yeah, I think so, and the other thing is, I don't want Lowry on the third pair. I want Lowry to play bigger minutes, and I want him to be an offensive guy, and I want him to play on a power play too, and I want him to play. So I want Zadorov to be on the third pair. That's what I want right now. And if it fails, then put Zadorov up or move him up, or if McAvoy needs a guy to protect him, whatever, I don't care. But at the beginning, Lowry has always played a ton of minutes. That's what he's best at, is when he's playing a lot. And I just don't think Lowry will be as effective if he doesn't play as much. So because that's just not, he's been playing half the game since he was, 10 years old. Like, just let the guy play heavy minutes.
Yeah, I think he needs that to get into a rhythm. It's kind of like Carlo when he gets hurt and he's not playing every day or every other day and playing 20 minutes a night. He starts to turn the puck over a little bit, or loses a little confidence, or whatever the case may be. But Carlo's really good if he's in there every night or every game, and he's playing 20 minutes a night, and he's aggressive defensively and doing all the right things, and he's that shutdown guy that you want him to be. But he needs that, he needs that time, and he needs that kind of rhythm. And I think Lowry's the same way, not the same player, but the same way, where he needs that rhythm. He needs the amount of ice time to kind of, get his game underneath him and feel good about himself.
All right, Chirp 6. Bruins scored 15 goals in 7 preseason games. Does this confirm concerns about the offense? Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does. It's a concerning thing. It's concerning.
It is.
It really is.
It is a thing. It is a thing that may be their downfall. It may be the reason that the Bruins either miss the playoffs or end up out of the playoffs early, is because they can't score enough goals.
And they won't be able to get a guy at the deadline with $1 million in cap space.
No,
to play wing, which they're going to need. They're going to be a winger short. A tale as old as time. They're going to be a winger short.
Yeah, unless you have one of those guys that either comes up like a Lysell and mid-season and sets the world on fire, or one of these guys like Georgii or Frederick or Jones, one of these bottom 6 guys has a little bump, a little jump, plays above their level, and gives you something more than you expect from them, or a Beecher, a guy like that. You're going to need somebody to have a year that you're not expecting them to have, in order for the Bruins to be really solid in the top 9. And they'll be good. They'll be a pretty good team overall, and they'll be hard to play against, and the defense will be good and all that. But, there's going to be a lot of 2-1 games, a lot of 3-2 games, a lot of games in that area. And it's going to be a little more,
Claude Julien,
a little more Claude Julien style than maybe we're used to with, the Bruins the last few years here. When they had, the Bergerons and the Krejcis and the Marchands and Pasternaks, they had a lot more, and Taylor Halls and so forth, a lot more talent in that top 9. So, it's a little concerning, I would say. And it could be a big concern, not a little concern. Once you get into this and if they're not scoring goals, that's going to be an issue.
And if Patra is kind of nursing a shoulder or something all year, and Marchand has had 3 surgeries, and he's had hips too, and what if he misses some time and then it gets real thin in a hurry, like at a hurry.
Yeah, I
If
mean,
you
if
lost Lindholm or Zaka or
Pasternak or Marchand go down,
forget it. You're
the
fighting
tube.
for a playoff spot.
down the tubes.
Yeah, you're fighting for it because I'm telling you, you're going to lose a lot of 2-1 games because you just can't score.
Mhm.
And unless Georgii Merkulov becomes Dmitry Karatanov or Mariusz Tchaikovsky, I don't think it's and I don't think that's going to happen. Like I'm not as down on Lysell as I am on Merkulov. Something's up with Merkulov that's just not getting it done, and he's not 21 years old.
I don't know if he has, and I think this might be what the problem is. I don't know if he has NHL level speed. I don't.
Okay.
I'm watching him try to carry the puck.
It's
and
like
people just catch him. Like he's with the puck on his stick. He's not that fast, and I think that might be his problem. He doesn't have the time in the NHL to make plays that he could make at the AHL level because there's guys are on top of him quicker. He just doesn't have the foot speed at the NHL level to make those same type of plays that he can make in Providence.
So what do you think it was? So what do you think it was with David Krejci then? Because he wasn't exactly
I think his play away from the puck is much than Merkulov.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. I mean, just angles, stick position, all that stuff, being in the right place, knowing where to go on the ice to find, a soft spot or a seam where he can then catch a pass and then he'll have an extra half second to make a play. Whereas Merkulov might be a little too close to the action. The puck comes out to him and a guy stick checks him. The puck's gone. Yeah. So Krejci was just so smart that Merkulov doesn't have that same IQ, at least not yet. No. And Lysell with his foot speed and his shot, I think has a better chance. Like I was more impressed with Lysell during the preseason than I was with Merkulov.
Yes.
And he's still only 21, so I think there is still some hope with him. Because of the concussion things, I think that maybe set him back a little bit. So, people got to give him a little bit of a break. I mean, he is still young and he had a pretty good year last year, but he had some injury issues. And that's, some of that stuff's unfortunate. It's not really his fault.
Sure.
So I feel like, there's still something maybe there with him. If he can figure out some of the, the back checking stuff that I think he's starting to get. And then some of the away from the puck stuff is really probably the most important in the puck battles too. The most important stuff that the coaching staff is looking for him to improve on.
I think your prediction of Merkulov potentially not being a part of the organization sooner rather than later can be considered a hot take, but it's becoming a realistic take.
Yeah.
The more the days go by, it is. I mean, he's 24, like he's not that young. And, there's been kind of a little rumor here about talking to KHL teams and a little bit of, Ryan Mugino was up his ass. And it was just like, it just doesn't seem to get it. I don't know. I don't know what it is about him, but he should have made the team. Like there was every opportunity to make the team. Yeah. And I'm just alarmed that he didn't make the team because
I'm with you
he should have. He scored 30 goals in Providence last year. They need a second line right wing. They need scoring. They need him to develop like I need air.
Right.
And he didn't come through. And that's alarming. I don't give a shit what you say. It's alarming.
Yeah. It is. I'm with you. I'm the same way. I'm disappointed he didn't make the team. He should be the second line right wing. It shouldn't be Morgan Geekie. It should be Georgii Merkulov.
It should be.
Yeah. Yes. And that's no fault of the Bruins for giving it to Morgan Geekie because Merkulov was crap in the preseason. He didn't do anything.
And Geekie is more dependable.
Yeah, he's responsible. He'll hit. He's shown, propensity to score some goals here and there. Now, should he be at this time the second line right wing? No,
not.
But they don't at this point in time have a better option. They just don't.
They don't.
So if Patra's healthy, that's his spot to me.
Yeah.
If Patra's not healthy and Geekie doesn't live up to the production that he needs to live up to there, then I think that's Tyler Johnson's spot.
Yeah, I think that's probably why what they're looking at is hanging on to Johnson a little bit longer, see if it works out the first handful of games. If it doesn't, they sign Johnson.
Or maybe they give Brazeau a shot there.
Yeah, but for the love of God,
I know.
Nothing wrong with Justin Brazeau. I mean, he's a fine human being.
But he did score goals at the
end.
He did.
I mean, he did.
And he scored, in the playoffs.
He did.
So I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm saying that they'll give him. They may give him that opportunity. If Georgii can't do it, they'll swap Brazeau and Georgii and give Brazeau a shot there. And then if he produces, I mean, it's kind of like the Marchand thing. Like Marchand was a fourth line guy, and they moved him up, and he produced, and then he never left. So I mean, I hope Justin Brazeau scores 30 goals.
Oh, yes, yeah. If he wants to be Charlie Simmer, God bless his soul.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to put any DraftKings money on that. I mean, Jesus. I mean, I'm just not. But again, Brazeau has been fine, and he's been a nice surprise.
Yes.
And he's a nice little insurance policy for a few games.
Yes.
To wait until you figure it out, and he might score 3 or 4 goals in the first 10 games or whatever. He might. He's capable. But, journeyman, a minor league journeyman in your top 6 is not a recipe for Lord Stanley's Cup.
It is not.
No, it is not advisable. Chirp 7. What is advisable is to check out the college hockey prospects. Check-in after opening weekend. Dan Zlakmelis from UMass had 2 assists in a 5-4 win over Bentley. He was 8 of 17 at the face-off dot. So Dan's was a 4th-round pick of the Bruins.
We were talking about him as a potential breakout candidate.
Boom.
This season. So there you go.
There it is.
There you go. 2 points per game player already.
Already 2 points per game. Chris Pelosi with Quinnipiac in an exhibition game tonight against Northeastern scores a goal. Yeah. And he's been scoring goals since they drafted him.
Yes,
he's a big kid. He scores goals. You talk about Brazeau being big and scoring goals. Chris Pelosi does it too. So, maybe there's something there. 92nd overall pick. Elliot Gronwald, the defenseman who they drafted this past year, also played in the game with Quinnipiac. So they're teammates, which is nice. Now, Boston College will be open on October the 11th. They have an all BC second line of Jelvik, Gasso, centered by Dean Letourneau.
Yes, sir.
This was a surprising development because Teddy Stiga was kind of thought to be in there, but they're going to bump Letourneau up to a top 6 spot as a freshman.
That's pretty good because there were the concerns with him were his competition level of the competition that he faced in high school, and coming to a program like Boston College, which I believe is second nationally,
second nationally behind Denver.
Second nationally, and then having him play top 6, he must be showing well enough in practice and in preseason games and scrimmages that they have confidence that he's going to be able to handle that. So, and not only, as a freshman coming in, but playing center as well, a little more responsibility there to play a 200-foot game. So that bodes well for the Bruins first rounder.
Yeah. And then Beckett Hendrickson is with the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers, and they'll open on October the 11th as well. And then Jake Schmaltz is with the University of North Dakota, and they begin on the 12th. So tons of Bruins prospects in college hockey this season. Makes it fun to check out the college hockey. Now to pay the bills, we're going to listen to this from DraftKings and be right back. DraftKings Sportsbook is Boston's hometown sportsbook. It's live right here in Massachusetts. Bet local on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home with DraftKings. To celebrate, all new customers will receive up to $200 in bonus bets when you sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook using code ITR. You can now bet local on money line, spreads, props, and more with one of America's top-rated sportsbooks. That's DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up with the code ITR. to get up to $200 in bonus bets to use. Now that mobile sports betting is live in Massachusetts, that's code ITR, and it's only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
If your loved one is experiencing problems with gambling, call 800-327-5050 or visit helplinema.org to speak with a trained specialist, free and confidentially 24/7. Must be 21 plus. Physically present in Mass. Eligibility restrictions apply. Subject to regulatory licensing requirements. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as free bets. Terms at DraftKings.com/MA.
All right, so a DraftKings betting segment. How about this? New to this year, this season, we're going to be doing some DraftKings betting segments and giving you all our expertise as we have made millions of dollars on DraftKings. I actually, I lost by 8 yards receiving from Mike Evans the other night with the Buccaneers and almost, ended it all right there. I was watching the game. I'm like, all he needs is like, just throw him an 8-yard out. Just throw him an 8-yard out to get 70 yards. And no. So that was a parlay gone bad. But Bruins season point total, 99.5. Okay, the over is -120. The under is -110. What say you?
I'm going over.
Okay,
over. I think they're going to hit 100. Maybe not by much, but I think they're going to hit 100. I think they're going to probably be right around that mark. So it's going to be a sweating it out type of thing, probably all year long. Might need to win their last game to hit it, just to kill me. Yeah. And they'll probably lose in overtime and finish with 99 on the button because Vegas knows these things. That's why they have big hotels out there.
Yeah.
So I think I'll probably I'm going to take the over on that one, and I will put a little money on it.
I can see it now. They need a win last game of the season. It means nothing. They got Casimir Cascaquo, whatever his name is.
Yeah,
and you're sweating.
Joey Abate out there with
right. Joey Abate scores the game winner, and you're like, thank Christ, this $10 they won $10.
Yeah.
But so that's okay. So I tend to agree. I think they'll be second in the division, and second in the division means 100 and something.
Yeah, sure.
Typically. So all right. So over 99.5. Okay, Bruins to make the playoffs. Yes is -240. No +195.
I'm a yes there. I think they're in.
I think they're in, and I don't really make that bet unless because it really doesn't make you much money. But if you went no, you had potential to make some money.
Yep.
Bruins to win the cup +1,800, tied for sixth best odds. 1,800.
I mean, I would maybe make the bet just because it's +1,800, so you can make a little money there if you hit it. Do I think the Bruins are going to win the cup? Unfortunately, I don't.
No.
Do I want them to win it? More than you can possibly imagine.
Oh, of course. Yes. Okay. So wanting and needing and having are three different things.
Yeah.
David Pastrnak to record 50+ regular season goals, -115, tied for second best odds.
I think he hits 50 again. Yes.
You think so? Okay. So he hits 50.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Because there's another thing coming up later on that I'm gonna give you that he'll have to hit 50 if this guy has the season that I'm bold predicting him to have.
Okay, so stay tuned for Smitty the Greek later on the program. Brad Marchand, 80+ points, +320.
I think he's going to be right around it. I'm going over just because, I want the Bruins to have a good year. So my bets are going to be always bet the over. It's more fun that way. You don't want to root for people to miss shots. You want people to score goals.
Like I had with DeBrusque last year. Was it last year?
Yeah.
Under 20 goals.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. Winner, chicken dinner. Yeah. Elias Lindholm, 80+ points. Same thing, +320.
Over.
Elias Lindholm's going to have over 80 points.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
He said it once in his life, and he's going to do it this year.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. So both get over 80.
Yeah.
And the Bruins are going to win the division, right?
They're going to
look at if Pastrnak has 50+ goals, Marchand and Lindholm have 80+ points, they win the division. I mean, don't they? I
Well,
mean, it's pretty damn close, right?
I mean, they have Toronto has 4 guys or 5 guys who could do that, and they never win the division.
No, they don't.
And Florida has a bunch of guys who can do that too. And so I think the Bruins are going to need to do that to keep up, not necessarily win the division. I think they're going to need to do that to be in the thick of it. Good point.
All right, David Pastrnak, 100+ points, minus 350.
Yes, over.
He's going over 100 points.
Oh yeah.
He had, 115 or so? 100 and
yeah.
Okay. Awards, Rocket Richard winner. Pastrnak is plus 600, second best odds. Wow. Okay.
I would I'll put some money on that. And I think he could potentially win it, but the guy with the best odds probably will win it, and that's Austin Matthews.
That's Matthews, yes.
Yes.
Art Ross, Pastrnak, plus 1,200, fifth best odds.
Again, that's if you want the Bruins to have a good year and you want to put some money on some things to up your stake and rooting for them, that's another one that wouldn't be a bad bet just because of the odds. So throw $10 on that, you can win 120, and hope Pastrnak has a all-worldly year. He probably won't win it, but I would throw a little money on that just for fun.
Hart Trophy, Pastrnak is plus 2,000, tied for fifth.
Again, not a bad thing to throw a little bad on. I mean, you might be throwing 200. Might be throwing $10 away, but if you have an extra $10, might make the season a little more interesting. I think McDavid and McKinnon and Draisaitl and some other guys will have something to say about all that. But I think. I mean,
doesn't Pasta need to score like 60 goals to win the Hart? Like, honestly, like.
To win the Hart, you would have to probably have a 60, 120 season.
You'd have to have a big time season.
And McDavid, they're Stanley Cup, a Stanley Cup favorite. Like McDavid will have to have a not 60 year.
Yes.
He'll have to have a 50, 55 year or something. And
Pastrnak can't be with the others. They can't be in line with the others. He has to be above.
Yeah, if McDavid or McKinnon or Matthews, if those guys are above him, he's not going to win it because he's not. He's from Czech Republic, so that's another thing that unfortunately hurts him going against some of those other guys where all of Canada is going to be rooting for the McDavids and the McKinnons, and U.S. will be rooting for Matthews and so forth. So.
Charlie McAvoy Norris plus 2,000, ninth best odds.
I sound like a broken record, but I put money on all these. I would. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's plus 2,000. So if you have an extra $5 or $10 lying around, that's, $100 or $200.
Right.
So do I think he'll win it? No, I don't.
No, I think he'll get the points, first of all.
Yeah. I like I said, I would rather have him go back to the McAvoy of 2 years ago where he was 55 or 60 points, plus 30, killing people, really good defensively, doing all the right things, than the guy last year who was kind of a little bit too loose, running around a little bit, trying to get a little too offensive, maybe made some bad mistakes pinching into the offensive zone on plays. I watched him just on the documentary in the playoffs go for a hit against the boards that sprung William Nylander in on a breakaway to put the Leafs up in one of those playoff games. So he needs to kind of rein it in a little bit, in my opinion, rather than explode and try to do more than he can do. We'll see where that all shakes out, but I don't think it's with a Norris Trophy, and I would be fine with that if he was more of that, really, really solid two-way defenseman.
Yeah, it's ironic because what you're explaining there is not going to win in the Norris.
No,
but it'll be more effective for the team.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. All right, Vezina, Swayman is at plus 750, third best odds.
Yeah, I mean,
that might be one of the better bets.
I think so. I think it would be one of the better bets. I mean, I think Hellebuck probably still is the favorite. He won it last year.
Right.
he has a really good team again in front of him. We don't see Winnipeg an awful lot, but really good goalie, really good team. Hockey East guy, UMass Lowell.
Right.
So, I feel like Swayman, though, if he can kind of build off his playoffs, that's a pretty good bet there.
Sure. I mean, he has a lot going for him. He has the defensive unit, the defensive system, the defensive unit.
Yeah.
He has the motivation. His teammate recently won it. So Boston's known for the goaltending.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot going for him there.
Sure.
All right, Selke. And you know what? This is a bet I would make. Okay. Elias Lindholm for Selke plus 3,500, 8th best odds. I really feel like the talk of him being Bergeron-like, if he has a really great year defensively, could push him over the top and win the award for him.
Tell you what, if he has 80 plus points, like I think, and plays the two-way game that we hope he plays and we hope he brings, and the winning face-offs and defensively responsible and all that, he very well could win it.
Yes.
Very well could win it.
He could. In
if he has that bounce back kind of a year, those like 30 goals, 50 assists kind of a year, he'll be in the thick of it. He will be.
That seems pretty high to me, to be honest. Just because of the talk about how he's like him, and it just seems like that's kind of high. Like I would throw $20 at that.
Sure.
To make 700 or whatever the hell it is. I don't know. Like, I'm not a math major. That's a freaking good bet.
Let me just say, I drained most of my DraftKings account before the show.
Oh, good. Good.
Making all these future bets. That doesn't go well for the day to day. But if when the end of the season rolls around, hopefully
we should have it. We should have a segment like the Smitty Watch, like the Smitty Financial Watch. Like, how are these guys doing, and how badly are you losing your ass?
Yeah.
Because it's not all. See, that's the thing. If you bet on all of it, it's not all happening.
No,
the Bruins aren't going to sweep all the awards.
Absolutely no, they're not going to sweep all the awards. So, what we do need people to do is hit the merch store so that we can afford to keep making these bets. They definitely should do that.
They 100%. Should. You know what? It's 25% off right now. Use the code GetBent25.
Yes.
Go to the merch store.
Go to the merch store. Get Bent 25. Any vendors merchandise, anything at all 25% off from now until end of Benders live on Tuesday after the home opener. So hop on over to the merch store and grab some stuff. Get yourself ready for the start of the season.
InsideTheRink.com. Go to shop. Go to Bruins Benders, and there it all is. Get Bent 25. All right, beauty for this week is the one and only Cameron Neely.
Gonna love you, and they're gonna be loving you from dawn until dusk.
I'm telling you, Cam, with those sneaky little comments, a sneaky little passive aggressive comment. I thought push the thing over the top. I thought he was just like, screw it. You know what? This is kind of our last straw. Like, this is it. This is what we're offering. We'll give you a little more beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. Like, this is it. So you're not going to get 9 to 10, whatever you think you're going to get. This is what you're getting. And I thought it moved the needle.
I think you're right. I think he probably did. And I don't know. I mean, there were some whispers that maybe Louis Gross wasn't telling Swayman that the Bruins offered what they offered, or it was maybe a little under 8 times 8. There's all kinds of reports out there about different things as far as that goes. Who knows what the truth is, but I think Neely stating that publicly, look, this is where we're at.
Right.
Kind of put the ball in Swayman's camp's court and, allowed them to, find some common ground there a little higher than that and eventually got the thing done. So, absolutely props to Cam Neely.
And you know what, Sweeney, and they asked Swayman about the comments about the offer or whatever that Neely said.
Mm-hmm.
And Swayman still stuck to the, we know the truth. He almost like couldn't let it go. He could have passed it off and been like, you know what, that's part of the negotiations and we're going to keep that in-house. But he still was, sort of leaning on the fact that he's basically saying that Neely was not being truthful. Like he said that again today. Like, can you let the friggin' thing go?
Well, I think Neely said that the offer was made like while he was at the podium, essentially. Like he was like, that was when he made it. So maybe it wasn't done before that. I don't know. Who knows? But right. Either way, like you said, negotiations and negotiations. Swayman probably could have handled that better. Sweeney did during his, questions when he was asked about it. He said, look, negotiations and negotiations. I feel confident in my communication ability with them during this whole process. So, you got to just take it for what it's worth. Both sides are going to say stuff to the media that they're trying to curry favor or get people to believe a certain thing or a certain idea or a viewpoint. And, both sides do that. And that's the nature of negotiating is, you're trying to get the other side to cave to what you want. So, eventually it got done, and that's all that really matters in the end.
Sure. 100%. Yeah, it's all done.
All right. And for a Bender, we have our good friends, the Florida Panthers.
I'm a Bender.
And I mean, there's a bunch of them. I could keep hitting the button. But let's renew the rivalry. I mean, we had the Florida dive team stuff. They during the playoffs last year. They like to instigate, throw the weight around, and then dive when anyone else gets close to them. Bennett with the sucker punch on Marchand. I mean, in the playoffs. So there's some scores maybe to settle, and it'll be interesting to see how the Bruins want to handle game one. Are they going in there and it's going to be straight, let's win the game, no shenanigans, no tomfoolery, or with all their new bulk and all their new additions to the lineup, Zadorov and Kastelik and some of these Max Jones, some of these newer guys, some of these bigger guys, the Bruins going to go in there and try to bully Florida and mix it up and knock them around and exact some revenge from last year. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it. It's going to be a pretty fun game to watch. I think Florida should be raising the banner on that night. So a little maybe extra motivation for the Bruins, and obviously Florida and the crowd will be pumped up for that one. So must watch TV there, I would say. But it'll be interesting to see how it all kind of shakes out.
Yeah, it certainly will. And I think that it'll be interesting to see if the Bruins right in game one here, because they're so hell-bent on getting heavier and bigger and adding Zadorov, that you see them sort of trying to make that statement right out of the gate Tuesday. You know what I mean? That's what I'm looking for, that game. Like, are they going to be just sort of not backing down and initiating some of that stuff instead of the Panthers right out of the gate in Florida Tuesday? I think they will. Like, I think there'll be a concerted effort, even to take a penalty or two.
Oh, yeah.
To prove a point. And if I don't see it, then I'd be disappointed.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of handle all that, because I've always felt, though, that the whole revenge thing the next season, it doesn't carry water for me. No, it doesn't. Great, you won a regular season game the next year. They knocked you out of the playoffs twice. You're not getting revenge. The only revenge you get is if you knock them out of the playoffs this year, and even still, they got you a couple of times. So, you knock them out this year, you get your revenge maybe, but it's still, now you're in the rivalry. Right now, they just own you. Yeah. If you beat them in the playoffs, then now you're in the rivalry. Now both sides will say, yeah, we beat you, you beat us. Great. And you can go at it. But the whole you win a regular season game and somehow that's revenge for getting knocked out of the playoffs. I never saw that. So to me, I'm with you. I don't care about a one-game win in game one of a long season. I want to see the Bruins up the physicality. I want to see them initiate instead of reacting to the physicality and the scrums and all that stuff. I think Mark Kastelik is going to be front and center where that goes, because I don't think there's a scrum that guy's ever met that he doesn't want to be a part of, that he doesn't like. I think Bruins fans are going to love that guy because every time he's out on the ice, he's going to be looking to stir it up. Yeah. And I think Zadorov is going to be headhunting, and it's going to be fantastic. I hope he catches a couple of those guys, coming across the middle or up the boards that aren't looking, and doles out some punishment legally, of course, but doles out some punishment. And I want Zadorov to be on the edge all season long. And if he gets suspended once or twice, that's the price to pay for playing that, style. And I think a certain level of intimidation is needed at the NHL level to be successful, especially come playoff time.
Yeah, I think Kastelik will be introducing himself to Matt Tkachuk pretty quickly in that hockey game. All right, season predictions for the Bruins. I will go with second in the division to Toronto. I think Toronto's going to win the division. And 104 points, second round exit.
All right. I'm not that far off from you. I think the Bruins are going to finish third. Okay. I think Toronto, I agree with you. I think Toronto's going to win the division. I think Florida's going to come in second. I think the Bruins are going to see Florida in the first round, and I think they are going to beat them in the first round, and then they're going to play Toronto in the second round and lose.
Yeah.
That's all that. That's what I think is going to happen after all that. The Bruins get over the hump. Everybody's all excited. Yeah. And then they get Toronto, and Toronto finally finds a way. Mm-hmm. And the Bruins get knocked out, unfortunately, in the second round. But
I like Toronto Rangers in the Eastern Conference Finals. Rangers going to the Cup final.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate that. I think the Rangers have a really good team. I think the Devils will have something to say about it.
Sure.
But I think I'm kind of with you there. I would say Rangers, Toronto, and I have the Rangers winning as well.
All right. Bold predictions. First, the Bruins, and you go ahead with yours.
I got Elias Lindholm in an 80-point season. If that's not bold,
it's bold as hell.
Coming off a 44-point season, I don't know what is.
Yeah,
I think he's going to find the chemistry with Pastrnak. I think he's going to be rejuvenated playing with Pastrnak and Zacha. I think he's going to fit in nicely on the bumper. I think he's going to score. Like I said, I think he's going to have a 30-50 season, and he's going to be a huge shot in the arm because I can only do this because I so need it to happen because in my heart of hearts and in my gut, I really think he's going to have like a 50, 55, 60 point season. Like, I think he's going to be fine. But he's not going to be the number one.
He's going to be Zacha Coyle last year.
Yeah, he's going to have a good season and a bounce back season for him, but he's not going to give them what they really need, which is a 80-point season.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's a bold prediction because I don't think he's going to get there. Obviously, I'd love him to. But I think he's going to be more in the 50 to 60 point range.
All right. I'll take the Marchand 80-point season. I think Marchand's going to have a really good year as long as he stays healthy, which I think he's healthier now.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem is, I'm not in love with Charlie Coyle as a center.
Yeah.
That's why I want Poitras there because I think Poitras could be a playmaker on the wing.
Agreed.
And make up some of that. And I think if Poitras plays a lot of that season on that line with Marchand, he can set him up, and I think Marchand can get to 80 points. If not, then he may have like a 65-point season because I just don't know if Coyle can be the guy to do that for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's, you miss a little bit of Jake DeBrusk there.
You do.
Yeah, DeBrusk was a little bit more of a playmaker and a game breaker. And, you lose that now. Yeah. So, it may be difficult for Marchand, but I agree. If Poitras's there, I think that gives him a chance.
All right. League bold predictions.
My league bold prediction is Alex Ovechkin hits 895 during this season.
Okay. Plus 1,000 on DraftKings.
Plus 1,000 on DraftKings. And there may have been some money put on that as well.
Yeah. $10 to win 100. on Ovi getting it to 895. What's it? 42 goals?
Yeah, I believe 42 or 43, somewhere in that range. I think he's at 8. It might even be more than that. I think he's at 842 now, so he might need 43.
Okay. Or
44. So yeah, he'll have to have a really good year. So and I think it can happen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's bold because he doesn't have a lot of talent around him anymore. Like Oshie's a little banged up, Backstrom's banged up. So there's not a lot of other guys there.
Mm-hmm.
So teams will be kind of zeroing in on him. So it's going to make it difficult. But he still has that one timer, and they still have power plays. So I think he's got an outside shot.
Okay, Austin Matthews, 70 plus goals for Austin Matthews this year. I think the guy is just a stud.
He is.
Gets a bad rap because of where he plays and they don't win. But he is so good. Like just so good. So he's going to get 70 goals plus. So that there you have it.
Yeah. I mean, that's I think you could put some money on that on DraftKings.
Yeah, I would. I wonder what that is on DraftKings. I'm sure it's probably right around there, 1,000-ish, 1,200, whatever it is. Yeah. I might do that. Might throw a 10 spot on there.
I think you should.
You know what? If we sell a couple T-shirts, I'll throw $10 on it. How's that?
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
It's the way it should be.
Yeah. Well, we thank everyone for tuning in. We appreciate your support. If you'd like to support the show, head over to the merch shop. And now until after the post-game live we have on Tuesday night after the first game of the season against the Panthers, you can get 25% off with the code GetBent25. GetBent25 will get you 25% off on the Bruins Benders merchandise shop. You can get the merch with a new logo. We have shirts and sweatshirts and mugs and all sorts of great stuff on there. There's also some great stuff from inside the rink. Great T-shirts for all teams, and there's some really great merch. So go ahead and go to the merch shop and get Bent25 is the code to use to get 25% off. You also want to subscribe to the Inside the Rink YouTube channel, and there you can get all of our content and other great podcasts. Subscribe on the YouTube channel right here with this QR code on your screen if you're watching on YouTube, and you can also be eligible to win a NHL jersey of your choice from Fanatics, the giveaway that we'll be doing at the end of October. Again, the Bruins play Tuesday night for real in Florida, hopefully weather permitting. Tuesday night, banner night for the Panthers. And as always, go Bruins.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.